Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. This isn't the first time that I've featured a Land Rover Range Rover Velar on my YouTube channel. But from what I've been told, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, so it is what it is. If it's accurate, it's really cool. If not, well, I'm sure the numbers are still rather low. But from what I understand, this 2021 Land Rover Range Rover Velar SVA or SVAutobiography is a 1 of 10 in the entire United States and a 1 of 1 in the state of Louisiana where I live. In fact, of course, that's where this one came from. It belongs to a friend of mine who works out at the same gym that I do. He just purchased it last month in December of 2020, shooting this video in January of 2021 just to give that information. And I'll tell you what, the first time I saw it, I knew something was different about it. Because like I said, I've done some other Velars on my YouTube channel, but they definitely don't have the exterior looks of the SVAutobiography. And I must say, they definitely don't have the sound either, and you'll hear a lot more of that when we do our test drive. And there are some differences, of course, with the exterior on the body. As you can see, it has a very low profile to it. It looks just as racy and high performance as it really is. But I have to say, one of my favorite features is actually found on the front end. And if you take a close look at the Range Rover letters right here, you're going to notice that that is something unique as well. But what I really wanted to tell you about that I really like here, a lot of the time on the lower portion with the lower grille, you'll find that a lot of the air intakes are basically faux air intakes. They're basically just cosmetic, but if you look closely enough, they're not functional. Everything, the upper and the lower grille here, is allowing air into the vehicle, into the engine bay basically, and helping in a multitude of ways, not only allowing the engine to get the air that it needs, but also allowing for air to help with aerodynamics, gas mileage, and all that kind of stuff. And speaking of that, let's take a look at exactly what is under the hood of this model. In my estimation, one of the greatest engineering marvels of this particular Velar is the fact that under the hood is the same engine that you can get in the Range Rover Sport Autobiography, the big brother of the Velar basically, the 5-liter supercharged V8. And it has a little bit additional horsepower. Normally you would have 518. This model has 550 horsepower and 502 pound-feet of torque. And if you're careful when you're driving down the road, something I probably would have a hard time even coming close to achieving, the estimated gas mileage is 15 miles per gallon in the city and 20 out on the highway. And of course, this is an all-wheel drive model, unless you don't want it to be an all-wheel drive model. If you turn off the stability control, then you can go to rear-wheel drive. But you know what? Unless the owner says I can make a second video with this, I'm not going to show you how easy it would be to drift this Velar. But you never know, because he is going to watch this video. But I'd rather not have him get upset with me because I used up some of his rear tires. But you never know, he might say, "Come on, Tom, come get it again," and you can drift it if you want to. We'll see what happens. Not that I'm trying to drop any hints or anything like that. You do have traditional features you would normally find on a regular Velar. Not that a Velar is regular necessarily, but when you hit the unlock button, the front and rear door handles are presented to you. The power heated folding side view mirrors, they'll fold right out. You have a standard panoramic sunroof, and here in the interior, it's not any different than a regular Velar. Again, maybe I shouldn't use the word regular, but different trim levels, obviously. Very luxurious interior, very comfortable, very well laid out, quite a bit of space. But one thing that the owner of this model did mention to me that's different on this one compared to his last Range Rover is that the rear seats do recline just a little bit, but I'll show you where the button is for that. And if you want to know what the underside of the Velar looks like that we're looking at today, I'll show you on the screen right now. In fact, there's a tray under the transmission that is actually meant to aid in airflow when you're making high-speed runs. Speaking of that, let's do the main purpose of this video. Let's get this model out on the road and let you hear what it sounds like under acceleration and see what it is like, well, in a virtual sense, to drive. Time for the absolute best part of driving something like this Velar SVAutobiography, but I have to tell myself a little bit, does it look like a different day today than the rest of the video? Well, that's because it is. I had a little bit of an issue with the first video, and I'm not going to put that kind of thing in the video, so we're going to do this again today, and thankfully the owner was gracious enough to say, well, come back and get it and do another test drive. So here we go, and let's just see how this sounds. Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness, that is awesome. I'm going to tell you something. Being such a light vehicle, as light as this Velar is with 550 horsepower, you can really feel the rear end planted more than the front. I mean, just it's really trying to pick the front end up. I mean, it's not going to do that, but it has that kind of feeling that it's just totally planted, but especially with the rear, the way the suspension is set up. As I said, it's calibrated for high performance, the drive line, the suspension, everything. And so naturally, when you step on it, I mean, just you can see how the front end comes up. I hope that shows up on video. I think it probably will, but I'm going to tell you what, I am impressed. Let's drive into the downshifts a little bit and see if it'll crackle. Didn't really get the crackles I was looking for. Now, I did make some changes to the exhaust, which you can change the exhaust even when you're in dynamic mode. There's another option here on the screen. I don't want to call it a button, but essentially it's just another function, I guess. But I'm going to tell you what, I'm really glad. I don't usually like making mistakes. I'll say that. You know, I don't like it when I make a mistake. That's just, I don't think anybody does. But I'll tell you what, making the mistake of needing to come back and make this test drive again, well, that was a good mistake to make. Let's see how we do here. And the owner even kidded with me quite a bit about it, saying I did this on purpose. Maybe I should learn from my mistake this time and do this kind of thing on purpose in the future, where I need to do 2 test drives. So let's get down to business. I'm having a really good time here. Driving in sport mode, by the way, and so able to shift myself manually with the shifter paddles. But I went ahead and went back into drive here just so I can focus a little bit more on talking to all of you who are kind enough to take the time to watch. So what is the experience like as far as driving? Well, obviously, you have a multitude of modes depending on what kind of surface you're driving on, for sand or snow and ice or dynamic, or whatever the case is, depending on your desires, even comfort mode if you want to use that. Overall, even having everything set to its most aggressive setting possible, as I do here, because I just want to squeeze every ounce of performance out of this Velar that I can, it's comfortable. The ride is very enjoyable. The steering, of course, responsive. The steering wheel, of course, being leather wrapped. That's going to be nice and comfortable. So let's see what we get as we cruise through the corner up here, where we often do our testing here on Vehicle Visionary for cornering. You can accelerate out of the corner. And nicely done. Very minimal body roll. There was probably a little more body roll in that corner than there would have been if I drove this every day. That was more on me than anything else. I just wasn't as smooth on the steering wheel. And nobody around. Get on the brakes a little bit here. Very responsive brakes. And get back on. Ooh, I like the way that felt. Got some nice G-forces taken back off after I was on the brakes hard right there. But I'm going to tell you what, this is just so much fun. It's everything I expected. Okay, and what did I expect? I expected great plant you in the seat performance, but that's the cool thing about this. And the owner, I hope he doesn't mind me giving this away. He's 84 years old and he just bought this thing. He ordered it, I think, last summer, 2020, and it came in during December of 2020. So he hadn't had it for probably even a month yet. And he works out at the same gym that I do, in excellent shape, but he's 84 years old. And he's had, as I mentioned, well, I didn't mention, I mentioned it on the previous test drive that you're not going to see, but I talked about the fact that this is, I believe, his third Land Rover. He had a couple of Range Rover Sports prior to this one. And now he has this one that has the 550 horsepower, and he said he loves driving it, and he seems to really enjoy performance about as much as I do, which is just, I think, really cool. So what I expected ultimately was everything I've gotten here. It's luxurious, it's comfortable, it's responsive in every form and fashion, whether it's on the gas pedal or on the brake. The response is very manageable. That's a good thing to note of any vehicle. Sometimes the brakes, you know, you get on the brakes in a vehicle and they're either overly aggressive or you have a really soft brake pedal. I'm going to push the pedal one more time. It's actually really very well balanced, I'd say. If anything, it might be a little bit above kind of a mid-grade between too soft and too strong, too aggressive. But actually, it's really good. I like what we have here with the responsiveness and really the controllability of the brake pedal. And as you would expect, you saw it back there, great handling, great cornering, and it probably would have done a lot better even going through that corner. Even I was carrying some decent speed if I was used to driving it every day. I don't drive this every day. It wouldn't be bad to do that, I'll say that much. But wow, and everything's easy to learn here. I didn't really cover the technology as much as I do in some of my other videos because I really wanted to spend more time talking about the performance and driving. But if you've never had this kind of technology before, like I said, this vehicle belongs to a man who is 84 years old, and we were talking yesterday when I took it back the first time, and he really enjoys technology. He likes learning about it and kind of telling me a little bit about some of the things he does. And he even showed me a couple of things in all the Land Rover videos. He showed me a couple of things here that I didn't know about. So that tells you something right there. I'm very, very impressed with what I experienced with this guy. He is just one of the nicest people I've ever met, gracious to let me drive this. But if you've never had, let me get back on point here, on track with what I was going to say. If you've never had a vehicle with the technology that's available here, and even if it's something else, another vehicle, whether it's a Land Rover or something as basic as a Honda, not that Hondas are all basic anymore, there's really no such thing as a basic vehicle anymore, but you've got these screens that come in all the vehicles, the backup cameras, at least in the US, that are now required. You won't buy a new vehicle now that doesn't have a backup camera. It was required to be on every vehicle in the United States by the year 2020, so all the car makers got ahead of that, obviously. But don't ever be afraid of the technology. It's not hard to learn. Some of the systems may be a little more challenging to learn than others, but that's usually not the case from what I found out. Most are pretty simple to learn. This one sure is here in the Land Rover, and of course you've got the dual screens here, the upper and the lower screen. And if you want to know more about some of that, watch some of my other Land Rover videos, because I show how you can change the angle of the screen and the background color and all that kind of stuff. It's just so much fun, and I probably shouldn't ramble too much longer. I'm just enjoying driving a little bit too much, I would say. But just cruising down the road here, you know, not stepping on it, not driving as spiritedly as I did a few miles back, but just enjoying the drive. It's wonderful that you could have something like this that is easily daily driven, no problem whatsoever. Reliable. You know, we just did a video on a Range Rover Sport that is a 2014 model with 101,000 miles on it, a little over that. The owner has never had a problem with it. When he took it in, when he first bought it, it was used, and he had it serviced, no problems. No problems at all. I had to spend a little bit of money to do that, but not a bad thing to do. So overall, we had my grades on this Velar SVAutobiography very, very high. I don't have anything negative to say, you know, and part of that's going to be just the fact that I am a high performance fanatic and I just love driving these kind of vehicles. But I hope you've enjoyed today's video, guys. If there's ever a different way you want me to cover these, tell me down in the comments. You know, I really want to know what you envision when you watch one of these car review videos. And like I said, normally I cover a lot of details I didn't cover here, but it was really more about the performance end of things. And so tell me what you think, what you want to see, whether it's a certain tutorial or certain style of how I review these, something you want to see me cover that I don't normally cover, or a certain vehicle, truck, SUV, car, whatever. And if I can get my hands on it, I'll definitely do that for you. Sometimes that's a little easier said than done, but tell me anyway and I'll see what I can do. But I just have to say a special thank you to all of you who were kind enough to watch today, and look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thanks for the opportunity to give you the opportunity to have a new vision for your next vehicle. See you next time. Bye-bye.